treating God like your ex, or worse, like your stepfather or your abusive alcoholic father. This is something that was also put on my heart that I want to talk about for a couple minutes, and it matters. However, these are feelings, this is your perception, this is a little off, because God doesn't really drink like that, and he doesn't abuse others like that. He'll say no, but obviously some people are like, we're going to equate that to abuse. Now, to be fair, if you don't exactly have any other examples, you're going to hold to the next best thing. That's why so many people identify God as a failed or failing parent, an abusive parent, an alcoholic parent. You name it, that's probably what people have said it at some point in their life. This is, what God means to me. Frankly, this raises a very interesting question of, if people were to die when this happens, would they still go to heaven? Well, are they trying to actively push God out of the picture? Are they trying to, just say, I can't go any further? There's usually times of healing, how do I put it? When it comes down to, coping mechanisms, it's until we are able to heal and to let go, to forgive, to move on, all of this, we have coping mechanisms. And for military veterans, there's a lot associated with our deployments, our time overseas, where we're just we're not at a stage where we can process, let alone grieve. For those who have lost family members, parents, their own children, that happened to my parents, and there's others out there where their kid has died before them. Whether it's through Lyme's disease or through just giving up and self-deleting some way, it is painful, it is hard. And for my sister, when my brother ended up losing his life because he lost his battle with Lyme's disease, it is a very painful story because it involves a hunting rifle. And respectfully, I say all this respectfully because I love my mother. I don't really want to disclose this stuff. It's not something that I want to do. But it is still very painful, and it affected my sister very negatively. And for a while, it seemed like she walked away from her faith. I do not know, and I am hesitating on even asking. Mostly out of respect, but also because it's not really my place to ask questions right now, and she doesn't seem to want me in her life. She just basically put an ultimatum, if you care about me, you're going to care about my kids. And so once I finally understood, I was like, you know what, that's fine, I'll accept that, because I would like to be a part of your life, but you don't want me to be a part of your life, you just want me to care about your kids. All right, that's how I will show that I love you, is by loving your kids. But I'm not trying to get too far off track. I'm just trying to say that so many people look at God as if, through the lens, the viewpoint of someone who has failed them or who has hurt them. I know I used that expression with a friend of mine, you could treat God like you could treat your ex. It is perfectly within your right to just say, God, I don't care about you, just as much as it is to say, God, I can't view you as anyone as if you were this person who failed me or hurt me, and I'm sorry, I just can't do it. So God is kind of left in a position here that he will do something about one way or another. Yeah, it's hard, but God kind of walks with us through this stuff rather than just simply here's the answer, boom, we're gonna, I'll deliver you from this and you won't have to ever deal with it ever again, blah, blah, blah. God takes what is there and he does something with it, but you have to let him, you have to allow him. And then, yeah, sure, some of it's gonna be painful and hard because you're processing stuff from your past. It could be pains, it could be parts of what you latched onto emotionally. These are things that therapists could answer so much better than me. I notice this, but they can put the words to this that I think is very helpful. Understanding who you are can understand where you are stuck at in your walk in life. And how you view God does play an impact on this. My parents, my grandparents, I think they were alcoholics, but I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth here. I think that is what was the case for both of my grandparents. Not my grandmothers, my grandfathers, if I remember correctly, but I don't know. And it's been years, and I haven't really talked about my grandparents with my parents at all, so I don't know for sure. They both served in World War II, and I'm going to say Vietnam, I think it was Vietnam. I'm not sure about that one, but they both were in World War II. And coming back and wanting to cope with what you have seen and dealt with, it's understandable. We all need coping mechanisms because there are some things that we just can't handle, and we're just like, we need to check out from reality. We need to check out from our problems and issues. And there's a lot that hurts us. We humans are like stuck in cycles where we end up hurting others, especially those we love. And the sooner you realize some of this stuff, these truths that tie in with our human behavior, you combine that with scripture, you can find more freedom about being away from bondage. Freedom from bondage, freedom from oppression, freedom to worship and love and live how you want, hopefully with God being in the picture. Because at the end of the day, you want God in the picture, and obviously you want Jesus in the picture, because Jesus is the gateway to God, specifically to God. And God basically does not seem to acknowledge any other way to get before him except through his Son. When it comes down to deliverance, fulfilling prophecy, having the best relationship ever, and as I've pointed out to my friend, it seems that no matter how right something is, if you focus on it, like for me, I cared so much about being right and accurate in what I was talking about, that kind of leads away from Jesus and God. And I kind of noticed that, like, no matter how good or healthy or right something is, at the end of the day, it still takes you away from God and Jesus. It's like when you focus on Jesus, you're focusing on the destination, you're focusing on the best, you're focusing on everything that leads and furthers and improves your life and who you are. Whereas I don't know. I don't even know where to go from here. But treating God like you treat your ex is something that I wanted to point out here. Just take a couple minutes. This is important because we've all done it at some point. God being one of our exes. We were in love with you once, and now we're no longer. It is a sad reality, but it's not one that's inherently wrong or even against what the Bible talks about. Where in Paul or Peter in the New Testament talks about how, like, with one of the 7 churches, how, like, you once loved God, but now you are neither hot nor cold. Now God will spit you out of his mouth. Stuff like that. Scripture verses that talk about one of the 7 churches back in the New Testament. This is around the time when after Jesus went to heaven, and people were starting to witness and spread out to the other churches and start teaching on Jesus and what was talked about. We're all hurt. God was hurt, mostly because of what he had to sacrifice and let go of for our sake. And walking through the pain, you understand a lot more coming out the other end, looking back at what you overcame and at the bigger picture, so to speak. Obviously, when you're going through something, you're not going to see it the same way as having overcome it and coming out the other end. Obviously, going into it, you're going to look at it completely differently, because you're just like, this is terrifying. Going through it, you're like, this sucks and I hate it. And then afterwards, you can look back and be thankful for what you overcome or what you've learned, and it's amazing. Some people have said that, like when this person committed this awful crime against me and took my loved ones or whatever, they realized some very important lessons at the end that God had been trying to share with them about, and they finally opened up, they finally acknowledged, and they finally forgave. At the end of the day, you kind of have to forgive yourself or forgive the people who wronged you, hurt you, and even forgive and accept that God allowed this to happen for a reason. I mean, God allowing things that happen to me is the same way. Why me? I think there is some joy in discovering some of these answers, but equally there's some parts of that are painful as well, because we don't deserve them and it shouldn't happen to us, and yet it did. Yeah, all right. Well, until next time. Wasn't trying to drag this out till like 10 minutes.